To understand the 7 meta strategies, first of all, let's baseline memory. What do I mean by this? I have a very holistic approach when it comes to memory. So it's not just about information or experiences. Memory impacts every aspect of our lives. Our ability to focus, sustain attention. It actually impacts the decisions that we make, and it also impacts our behavior. So when I think about memory, when I talk about memory, I'm really talking about a more holistic view. Let's face it, without a memory, who are we? And we all know as we get older, we might have experienced in our family or friends who, when the memory starts to decline, that person starts to disappear. So actually memory is everything. And obviously in this course, we are really geared towards personal and professional development. But in order to understand that, let's explore the different types of memory. We'll whiz through this just to give you a picture because it will give you some context as we jump into some of the key strategies. Working memory. Very simply, this is our ability to focus, to think, to pull information from a long-term memory, take information that we're exposed to and from a short-term memory, mix all that stuff together. We can generally hold about 3 to 4 chunks of information in our mind that we're playing with at any one time. Now, if you find that it's difficult to focus, it's difficult to sustain attention, this is going to have a significant impact on your memory. That was my problem. You know, my memory was actually pretty good, but back in the 90s, when I had this kind of rep for having a bad memory, it was more about my focus. And you know what's interesting? I could actually focus, but what I couldn't do is really sustain attention because I had all this stuff in my head. I just had lots of ideas. And when those ideas pop into your head, it kind of breaks your pattern and you can't focus. Now, it's different for everyone, but if you find that attention is a problem, once you solve focus, everything gets better. Next, we have our episodic memory. Now, this is really a memory of experiences, but let me ask you a question. What did you have for breakfast this morning? What did you have for breakfast? Now, as you remember that, you're literally engaged in that kind of episodic memory, that memory of experiences. Let me ask you a different question. Was it a healthy breakfast? Think about it. Was the breakfast you had this morning healthy? Now, your answer is going to be yes, it was, or no, it wasn't. How do you know? Well, you know because you built up some knowledge. Maybe you've got some nutritional knowledge and you go, yeah, it was a healthy breakfast, Mark, because of X, Y, Z. Or maybe it wasn't such a healthy breakfast. It's lots of sugar in there, but you know this because you built up that semantic knowledge, that information. Let me ask you a different question. Why did you buy this particular breakfast? Chances are, at some point, you have been primed, whether it's through marketing or maybe a friend said, hey, you should eat this type of breakfast, it's really good for you. Your brain has went, okay, this stuff is important. Now, priming is an implicit type of memory. It's unconscious. We're not aware of it, but it does affect our decisions. We'll be diving into priming a lot on this course. Let me ask you a different question. How do you know how to make your breakfast? Now, it sounds an obvious question, right? But you know how to make your breakfast because you've practiced it, you've rehearsed it, you've got this procedural type of memory. You know, you've heard people say, ride a bike and ride a car. You never forget to do those things once you learn because it's in your body, that procedural type of memory. Well, so it goes the same for, let's say, making your breakfast. And finally, let's talk about condition response. This is a particular type of memory that affects our behavior. Now, I remember back when I was a kid and I'd never eaten porridge. I was over at my aunt's house in Galashiels. We went down there for a trip from Aberdeen. And I felt really grown up because she said, do you want some porridge? I was, yes. But what she did stuck with me for the rest of my life. She put salt on the porridge. Now in Scotland, this, believe it or not, was a thing. I didn't know this. I was a kid. I thought she put some sugar on it. I was like 4 years old. This was the worst thing I ever tasted. I was like, ugh, this is disgusting. I could never eat porridge again. Literally, for about 30 years, I never touched porridge. I actually quite like it now. But back then, it conditioned a response. Every time I thought of porridge, I'd have this taste in my mouth, and I couldn't look at the stuff, and I definitely couldn't eat it. So as you can see, memory is everything. It impacts our focus, what we remember in terms of experiences, our knowledge that we build up, our expertise, but also our decisions and our behaviors. So the reason I share this with you is to give you context, to give you some context that memory is more than just knowledge. It impacts who you are.